Mandatory minicamp day one notes from Peter Space Sweeney. And we've got plenty of things to talk about, including some future videos. The very first tweet from Pete, worth going over. Attendance for minicamp was near perfect, with only tight ends Trey Watson and Jake Brenningstool held out. 2 UDFA tight ends. What a coinkydink. Brenningstool attended the practice, but did not have a helmet. The Chiefs also hosted 4 tryout players. Wide receiver Tanner New, tight end Jorquaria Spivey, offensive tackle Ricky Lee, and center Joe Lombard. Now, there will be videos for maybe. I mean, it depends on how far these players get, right? I believe I'm going to put together one tonight for Ricky Lee, the offensive tackle. There's already a video on the channel for Jorquarius Spivey. Joe Lombard is a guy who does interest me. And Tanner New, well, undersized white wide receiver who looks like he should be stocking shelves at Hy-Vee on overnights has to be a win, right? I mean, that's everything that the Patriots needed to win several Super Bowls. So perhaps a video on Tanner New. Also, I believe he ran like a 4.58 40-yard dash, so we are right in that Patriots wide receiver sandbox there. Now, the next thing worth talking about, I spotted 4 players who appeared to be limited in some capacity. Defensive end Felix Anudike-Uzomah, offensive tackles Jalen Moore and Juwan Taylor, and tight end Jared Wiley. Offensive tackle Josh Simmons continued to do everything and updated reporters on his recovery process after the workout. You might notice a bit of a pattern here. Tight ends and offensive tackles don't last long here in Kansas City. Hopefully there is not too much to be made out of these injuries at this point. Really, at this point in the season, if somebody has a hangnail, why play them? So that is what I believe is going on there. Nothing too terribly terrible. Franchise-tagged right guard Trey Smith attended the Tuesday practice. Last week, the Chiefs were unsure Smith would be there, but his presence avoids any fines as his reps work toward a long-term deal. Defensive tackle Chris Jones had some playful words for Smith on the contract. "I do things a little different," he smiled. "Don't take no advice from me." Luckily, that Week 1 loss to the Lions did not stop the Chiefs from making the playoffs and then winning a Super Bowl. Otherwise, Mr. Jones, there would be some different feelings around your joke. Pete goes on to say, "In my opinion, Travis Kelce did indeed look slimmed down and moved well throughout the look." This is interesting, right? The reports that Travis Kelce has lost 25 pounds. It's a double-edged sword, right? So obviously when you hit the age that Travis Kelce has hit, you lose a step. You lose weight, you gain a step. Will Travis Kelce be back at his old playing speed? Perhaps not. But also, when you're a tight end, you have to have some cushion for the pushing. I'll leave it in. You have to be able to absorb hits, and we have seen Travis Kelce be able to do that throughout his career. He's never really been fragile on the football field, so I don't imagine there's going to be any problem there. But when you're talking about something like 25 pounds, guys, even if you're 6'6", 6'7", Travis Kelce, I know I've said this on the channel before. I've met Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce in person does not appear to be a football player. You meet Travis Kelce, you think you just met a basketball guy. That's the way he walks. That's the way he's built. That's the way he dresses. He's a basketball guy. You don't feel like you're okay. So I also met Jason Dunn a very long time ago. You're in the presence of Jason Dunn. You were in the presence of a tactical attack cruiser, multi-level missile defense system. Jason Dunn was an absolute monster of a man. You knew that was a football player. Travis Kelce, minus 25 pounds. Hopefully, he's got a little bit of his wiggle back, right? Because he's going to need that, especially if he is more susceptible to those big hits. And I hate to overanalyze something like this, but I think we have to be honest. 25 pounds is not a questionable amount of weight. That's substantial. That is a substantial amount of weight. But if he does look slimmed down, if he does look more agile out there, that's something that prior to the Super Bowl, his weight was not the problem in the Super Bowl. But prior to the Super Bowl, he just didn't look as nimble out there as Travis Kelce had in previous seasons. The next tweet here, in Mahomes' next turn, he floated a pass to the left numbers to connect with wide receiver Jason Brownlee, who launched up off the ground to bring in a tough contested catch from safety Brian Cook. The back end of the wide receiver room is one of the more interesting deep battles heading into the summer. You know what another one is? The offensive tackle, the offensive line in general. I stand pat by the prediction that the Kansas City Chiefs will make preseason trades of both a wide receiver and an offensive lineman. Get some type of value for those players who would not otherwise make the roster. It is an interesting conundrum for the Kansas City Chiefs because while and whereas they don't have the top flight at the offensive tackle position or the wide receiver position, they've got several number twos, they've got several number threes, and they've got several number fours. You know what I'm saying? So they might not have a Tyreek Hill out there at wide receiver, an alpha dog for the pack, but Rashee Rice, I would contest at this point Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. And if I'm projecting out, I do think Jalen Royals are all great number two wide receivers that could probably play number two wide receiver anywhere in the league that's not Philadelphia or Cincinnati. So moving on from certain assets at those positions should allow the Kansas City Chiefs to stockpile picks that will give Brett Veach the versatility to move up in the draft should he need to. Now, as for Jason Brownlee, there is a video on the channel for Jason Brownlee, and he's an interesting kind of guy. He's going to have to be a better professional wide receiver than he was a college wide receiver in order to have any hopes at making an NFL roster. I think that he is at this point a practice squad type of guy, but he's got the build, he's got the speed, he has all the tools that would be necessary in order to make the roster and be one of these bottom end of the roster contributors at first, and he has all of the tools that would be necessary in order to be a more regular player. I just don't think he's there yet. So will he get there? Maybe not with the Chiefs, right? So if he flashes in the preseason, if he's able to put some film out there in the preseason games, maybe the Chiefs have to cut him and he lands somewhere else, or maybe the Chiefs are able to trade him for basically nothing, right? That's what happens with those types of guys. But still, I mean, a 7th round pick a year from now is not nothing. So will be interesting. In the same period, cornerback Null Williams leapt and torqued his body to intercept quarterback Gardner Minshew. Wide receiver Justyn Ross made an outstanding catch from quarterback Chris Oladokun on an outbreaking route to the right sideline. So the number one thing from this tweet that is worth looking into, maybe, Null Williams intercepted Gardner Minshew. This suggests, does not absolutely guarantee, but suggests that Null Williams is running with the twos. That would be a promising sign for the young cornerback, and already picking off Gardner Minshew, a guy who has started quite a few games in the NFL. That is a promising sign. Now, I don't think we have any way of knowing who it was that Null Williams was covering, but picking off a guy who has started multiple games in the NFL in what is your first real practice as an NFL player is a promising sign. Next, wide receiver Justyn Ross made an outstanding catch from Chris Oladokun on an outbreaking route to the sideline. Please, don't do this to me again. My heart can't take it. My heart cannot take it. The Justyn Ross preseason promise, please trade him for a first-round pick. Just get him out of Kansas City because I can't do it anymore. Mr. Ross, I'm sorry. I cannot be on this bandwagon for the 6th season in a row. Trade him. Please put something on film. Get him out of Kansas City. I'm tired of bringing out the Justyn Ross jersey and the Clemson flag and running laps around my neighborhood every time I get one of these tweets. Moving on. On the first play of 11 on 11, running back Isaiah Pacheco lined out wide and beat cornerback Trent McDuffy down the sideline, catching a pass that likely would have went for a touchdown. Wide receiver Juju SmithSchuster fought off McDuffy to bring him in a pass a few plays later. Okay. Number one, at some point, running backs making receptions down the field for touchdowns has to stop being about how quirky the offense is and start being about why are the Chiefs cornerbacks being torched by running backs. That said, Isaiah Pacheco runs a 4.37. Brashard Smith runs a 4.39, was it? I'm okay with it. The fact that we have consecutive plays where Trent McDuffy is being toasted by a running back and then a wide receiver who might be slower than a few of the offensive linemen, concerning. I'm not ready to write off McDuffy just yet, but McDuffy getting McLambasted here in... now, these practices, non-contact, so the offense is always advantaged because they know where they're going, you cannot make contact, etc., etc. Still, Mr. McDuffy, it would be really good for my heart rate in the preseason if you just went ahead and started knocking some of these passes down. The next tweet here. Mahomes ended the period in red zone with touchdowns to Brashard Smith and Kelce, who navigated soft coverage and sat down in the middle of a window for Mahomes. Even though it was a 2-yard touchdown, Kelce danced for the crowd. Of course he did. He's 25 pounds lighter. He's got his Dougie back. He's going to show it off. Brashard Smith is going to be a problem. Brashard Smith is going to be what it was that Jerick McKinnon was able to be in flashes for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was never consistently that guy, but he was that guy in bits and spurts. If the Chiefs can get that out of their backfield, and all of a sudden Isaiah Pacheco realizes that there's someone here to take his grown man job, then I think we will get a little bit more of an evolution from the running back position. 2 days ago, the PFF website came out with the rankings of wide receiver rooms across the NFL, and I kind of had a little bit of a to-do about that on the channel in a video, but they were ranked 14th. I think that's too low. I don't think that is the respect that this wide receiver room will garner as the season goes on. But they just came out with the running back rankings, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but the Chiefs were ranked either 22nd or 24th in those rankings. They did not mention Elijah Mitchell, and they mentioned Brashard Smith as a, kind of mention. I think Brashard Smith is going to be a much bigger deal than that. I think that Kareem Hunt, again, and this is something I said going back to last year, Kareem Hunt even said himself recently that he looks forward to having a season with a full preseason under his belt. I think those are wise words. I think that Kareem Hunt came on strong and ran out of gas last season. Brashard Smith and that running back position are going to be better than they're getting credit for. Later in 7-on-7, safety Major Williams deflected an Oladokin pass up into the hands of linebacker Brandon George. Now, Brandon George, linebacker, UDFA, has a video on the channel. It's in the playlist for 2025 draft picks. It's in the playlist for 2025 preseason. Or I think that's what it's called. I can't remember. I upload to it every day. It is difficult for me to remember. But I think Brandon George is the next great UDFA linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs who makes the roster, becomes a special teams ace, and eventually gets a few defensive reps. Last season, I said prior to the year, or about the middle of the year, my biggest regret all season long was that in my videos for the UDFA, I did not make a video for Christian Roland Wallace. I thought that the Chiefs were just too deep at defensive back for Christian Roland Wallace to make the team. He did make the team. He got defensive reps. I believe, top of my head, that he even had a start out of it. I didn't make that video. I should have made that video. I regretted not making that video. I did not make this preseason a Major Williams video. Several of you prompted me to make a Major Williams video. Perhaps I should have. In fact, I'm going to say hopefully I regret that. This is just one play, but there were several people that told me I should make a Major Williams video. The workout continued with red zone 7-on-7, and Mahomes threw scores to Rice and SmithSchuster, who tapped 2 feet in as defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo disputed. The two embraced in a fun moment caught by the Chiefs video team. SmithSchuster would add another score later in the final 11-on-11. Juju SmithSchuster is going to, and this is from Charles Goldman, Juju SmithSchuster looked like classic Juju. A pair of reclamation projects at wide receiver also stood out. Opportunity knocks for rookie left tackle Josh Simmons. One UDFA continues to make plays on the ball. Here is apparently that toe-tapping moment. Juju SmithSchuster is going to be an interesting piece for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs have so much potential at the wide receiver position. The Kansas City Chiefs have so much speed at the wide receiver position. The Kansas City Chiefs have so much underrated talent, I guess I should say, at the wide receiver position, that a guy like Juju SmithSchuster, especially by myself, I have to admit that I am guilty of this for sure, gets lost in the fold until it's time to play football. Remember, Juju SmithSchuster did have a 130-yard game just last season after being cast out of New England. There is a term that I use pretty often on the channel, but it comes from the world of fighting. Basically, it is a bouncer, right? A division has a weight class, has a bouncer. Usually, this is a guy who was a former champion, and like Tyron Woodley, I often make this comparison, and a gatekeeper loses his title, but he's still technically as sound as anybody. And the guys that are hopefuls, I want to fight the champion. You get sent in front of the bouncer first. And if that guy beats you, it means you're not there yet. If you beat that guy, it means probably you have enough of the technical abilities in the sport to be able to fight the champion and not make anyone feel like they wasted their money. Juju SmithSchuster is going to be that guy at the wide receiver position for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's going to be a gatekeeper. He's going to be the bouncer. If Juju SmithSchuster does not make the Kansas City Chiefs roster this season, it is a very, very good sign. Juju SmithSchuster is still capable of popping off a 130-yard game. Juju SmithSchuster is capable of being your wide receiver number 5 and that 5th guy on the field that is making plays. He's not the fastest. He's not the most nimble. He's not going to be a huge yak guy anymore. But if Juju SmithSchuster is not on the roster week 1, snap 1, it means that this Kansas City Chiefs offense is going to be extremely explosive. This is the 2 more tweets, I believe. Yeah. So, penultimately, also in red zone 7-on-7 work, Ross tapped 2 feet in the back of the end zone to record a touchdown from Minshew. Once again, don't do this to me. Don't put me through this. You know I'll make the videos. Justin Ross, Brett Veach, you know I'll make the videos. You know I will take comments for months in those videos about how stupid I was to fall for it. People will be searching those videos up long after the fact and laughing at me. Don't put me through this again. And wide receiver Elijah Badger made a one-handed grab from Oladokin just inside the front pylon despite a defender being in his face. Elijah Badger is a guy for whom there is a video on the channel in that 2025 draft picks playlist, despite the fact that it was not a draft pick, is a guy that I think is going to be very difficult to keep off of the roster. Elijah Badger is a guy that I think I disagree with, was it Rocky Montagna at Arrowhead Pride, who wrote the article that he was not worthy of being a camp crush? I think he is. I think that he's got wide receiver 2 potential. I think that's the high upside. I think that he definitely has wide receiver 5 stuff, I think, from day one. And this is where Juju SmithSchuster comes into play. Elijah Badger's faster than Juju SmithSchuster. Elijah Badger is not the pro yet that is Juju SmithSchuster. Elijah Badger has deep speed. He can be a deep playmaker. Juju SmithSchuster does not have that. Elijah Badger can be a run-after-the-catch threat. Juju SmithSchuster does not have that. I think Elijah Badger could return punts. Juju SmithSchuster does not have that. Juju SmithSchuster, however, is a seasoned veteran and will be everywhere he's supposed to be right when he's supposed to be there. Are the Chiefs this season willing to grant a little bit of leeway for potential, or are they hardcore on this warpath of we have to have all the assurity that we can in order to get back to the big game? And finally, Mahomes 11 on 11 targets, SmithSchuster 4, Brownlee, tight end Noah Gray, both had 3, Rice had 3, Kelsey had 2, Moore had 2, Pacheco 2, Ross Smith, Tyquan Thornton, and Xavier Worthy. I think it was just 1 there. Very, very possible to read too much into this, and I'm going to level with you. That's something I'm going to do on occasion. I'm going to read too much into the targets. If there weren't anything that you could read into the targets, then it's difficult to imagine someone like Pete Sweeney making all of this hubbub every practice to tick and communicate those targets. SmithSchuster, again, I think that coming in here and being the number 1 target, the Chiefs are trying to figure some things out. The Chiefs have to figure out what it is that they're going to be doing. They don't have to figure it out right now, but you have to figure out where everyone is. Is Juju SmithSchuster still pliable enough to be able to have big games in the NFL? Is Juju SmithSchuster still able to be consistent? If he can, it's going to be very, very difficult to take him off of the roster. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.